Well, hello and welcome to Talking Dogs on a Monday. Of course, as always, we'll be talking about all the action over the weekend, but we're very much focused on the Sporting Press online edition, Irish Oaks. Once again, the exile dub not with us this weekend. He's busy working on his tan. We're joined by the Drakester, Barry Drake, a near neighbour to Tommy, and he'll be talking us through his thoughts on the Sporting Press online Irish Oaks. And we have our special guest, of course, another contributor from the Sporting Press, Mark Sullivan, a man who has been writing about dogs for quite some time, Mark. Are you still a world record holder? You tipped 12 from 12 one year, I remember.
I believe so. Yes, Ian. Yeah, it's still intact. So I don't think we appear as much in the Guinness Book of Records anymore. But when they have a wee bit of space, they put us in. But as far as I know, it's still a record. Yeah.
Yeah, some tipping. Well, let's listen. We're going to put you to the test. We'll be looking at the quarterfinal heats of the Sporting Press Irish Oaks very shortly. But before then, we're going to review the action from Saturday night. Some tremendous performances from the ladies. Once again, they really are a very special crop. We'll speak about the produce tweaks perhaps, and might even get your thoughts perhaps on the English Derby, which is going to be starting on Thursday, believe it or not. The talk is going to stop, which I must say I'm glad of, because there's been an awful lot of opinion over the last few weeks. It should be nice now to start talking about facts and the actual performances themselves. But let's kick off on Saturday night at Shelbourne Park. The Sporting Press online edition Irish Oaks kicked off, or second round kicked off. The second race on the card. Barry Drake last week, Mark, told us that Ballymacgorna had no chance of winning an Oaks. That was, I think, his exact words. She led into the corner in the opening heat, but was picked up by her kennel companion, Galadriel, who took it up off the second bend. I don't know, from your base at home, lads, you may not have noticed, I didn't think they were quite getting their toe in at the time. I thought maybe the very, very hot conditions, warm conditions, that the track was perhaps a little bit loose. For the first few races anyway, until it was plated a bit. I just didn't think Ballymacgorna was getting her toe in. What were your thoughts in the race, Barry?
Well, the writing was certainly on the wall early, because the winner, of course, has form over further. I think it was the 30.96 there recently for 5.75. So the outcome was never in any doubt in my book. And I thought it was a very good performance from the winner. Declan Byrne will be pleased with his night's work. He's been in to make it back-to-back Oaks titles. The Waterford trainer, he has 3 in the quarter-final, and a lot to look forward to for him.
Yeah, Mark, Galadriel, she had shown plenty of promise. She probably does one further, but off the second bench, she made her move, and it was a good victory.
It was a good victory. She's very tough as well. She as Barry alluded to, the result was pretty much, let's say, a foregone conclusion. It certainly looked likely from halfway. She was well placed. She went around the outside, and she's very strong. And as Barry also said, Declan Byrne, a good night certainly a good first heat for him, first and second coming home, and a very good winner, I thought. Yeah.
Yeah, the first and third very lightly raced, Galadriel and Highview Magnus, and that was just their 6th career starts. They're doing things the right way. We lost Rocklyn Swift here. It didn't happen for her. Santa's Jet, who had run so well in the opening round. Burgess Macy, unfortunately, got knocked over on the bend. But Galadriel, a good winner. Highview Magnus finished third. She's building up a nice sort of a card, Mark. She's 3 wins from 6, but she has that, she's a few 28.50s in her card now. At this early stage in her career, you like to see that.
Oh, absolutely. And she's going the right way, as you say, some decent clock-ins and a good strike rate as well. So can only go one way, you would think, Ian, at the moment. Anyway, that's for sure.
Well, perhaps Galadriel may need a little bit of luck to win an Oaks. One bitch that probably won't need an awful lot of luck to win is Billy's Diva. Mark, she's a bit of a star. She always has been a star. But the other night was just, again, further highlighting how good she really is. She probably went a fraction early, but once she got to the front, it was game over.
I heard the commentary. You said she attempted to crash the gates again. Yeah. And is that an issue, do you think, Ian, with her?
I think last week it was down to freshness. I think this latest run, Trap 3 Clonmel missed went. And I'd say her moving, she didn't quite charge them like she did the previous week. She didn't touch them, but you could see her taking that little, and it was on a reset, but she got going straight away again.
She did, and she's as you say, she's exceptional. I remember talking to John Kennedy after she did that really quick run. I think it was first race, and they always expected her to be that good, and I think that expectation has been fulfilled with the performances thus far. Again, very quick away, did everything right. You couldn't fault her, and she's so strong as well. This is the thing about her, isn't she? She's terribly strong as well.
Yeah, well, she was a finalist in the 600, and of course she was disputing favoritism in the Labrooks Easter Cup. Barry, I know you're a massive fan of her, Billy's Diva. It was what you want to see from her. it's worth remembering she went out in the opening round of the Oaks last year, and here we are now. She's in the quarterfinals. She has that bit of experience behind her. She now has 10 wins from 21 starts. She's pretty special.
She sure is, and in fairness, that's nearly as good as it gets. That perfect all-around performance on Saturday night. 28-18, she's staying on so strongly coming home. I think against her own sex female races, she's capable of slipping around in front like she did on Saturday night. And she's probably the one they all have to beat now in the competition. And it rounded off a fantastic weekend for the Kennedys. With good Cody delivering a spectacular performance down in Clonmel. We'll touch on that no doubt later. But yeah, Billy's Diva, possibly the one to beat now in the competition, I would think, and that was sensational.
I also, Ian, sorry, I'd just like to mention Swanley Chick as well. I thought she ran quite well, really, on the outside. And again, for young Jamie McGee, who's only just starting his career, following on from his grandfather, I think she's doing him proud at the moment as well, running really well on the outside there.
She definitely is, Mark. Go on ahead.
Yeah, just in terms of Swanley Chick, I thought she showed plenty of middle pace. Probably not her quickest starts. I'd like to see her in the middle. I don't know what your thoughts are on that. I think there might be a bit more to come if she was on the middle, yeah. But as Mark pointed out, that was a good performance in the feet, especially when you consider the clock that Billy's Diva posted.
Yeah, if you look at last year's Oaks, she was an inside seed. She ran from trap two. She was 6 in the final, but I think it was 6 inside seeds. But yeah, Swanley Chick, she had been off the boil for a little bit, but there was no question in the opening round she had shown a sort of return to some form when really challenging Scooby Princess to that third turn. And the other night where she didn't get a flying start, as you said, she showed plenty of pace. Razzle Dazzle Maya, really likeable type, back in third spot for Neelis O'Connell. She won't be winning any Oaks titles, don't get me wrong, but she's just the type that could sneak through another round. If the opportunity arose, she's one of those, she'll take it. We move on now to the third heat on the card. It was a strange enough affair. Clona Sky was had bookmakers being on site, she would have been an odds-on favourite. She completely missed the kick in contrast to her opening round victory. But Battlecry stepping right and Old Fort Lockett stepping in, it got a bit tight on the outside. Clona Sky got the room of Shelburne Park up the inside, Mark, and took full advantage.
She did. She was quite slowly away, really, by her own standards, but she has got such pace up. I suppose, in a way, it did open up for her. That was the thing. But once she saw daylight, she was away and gone. And it was a real taking performance from a very decent bitch, I think. It was a good effort. But again, she can't afford to be missing it like that. That's one thing. As we get towards the end, the business end, as it were, she needs to be coming away a little bit quicker than that. It was a really sort of lazy start from her, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, there's no room for error in the coming weeks. Perhaps this was her slow start out of the way. That's what you're hoping if you're Kevin O'Brien or Graham Holland. It's hard to believe, though, if you actually look halfway and go, gosh, she's 5-6 clear, that after the first stride, she's not even a length down. She's probably a couple of lengths down. And she only actually takes up the running on the bend. She probably gave Battlecry a bit of a wobble, and all of a sudden the momentum, she opened up. Battlecry, probably not the bitch she once was, but she's very strong still. She stayed on strongly in second, Mark.
Yes, absolutely. As you say, she's perhaps not the force of old, but she's determined, and she keeps plugging away, doesn't she? And has run well and earned her place in the next round, I think. Yeah.
Barry, Clona Sky, you would have seen her, of course, down in Curryheen Park. She's the Cork Oaks winner. She does have good early speed, but she's going to have to improve her starting.
Yeah, Mark touched on the business end of the competition. Well, that starts next week. There's some mouth-watering ties, and it's going to take some running to qualify for the semi-finals. Clona Sky, as you said, look, she didn't break as well as she can. Still done 16:22. Sectional, which is quite good considering the break that she had, but just not strong enough coming home, and I think she'll be found wanting next week. But delighted to see her win for Kevin O'Brien, who's such a great supporter of ground racing, great sponsor. So well done to him. But as I said, she has a much tougher task ahead now next week.
She certainly does that. We move on to the next heat, Heat 4 of the Sporting Press Online Edition, Irish Oaks. And of course, this was Ballymacbeanie at her very best. When I say very best, we were speaking about her on Talking Dogs TV the other night. I suppose we've come to expect so much from this lady that to the eye, it almost seemed a bit routine for her the other night, Mark. It wasn't quite the same wow performance that we've seen from her so often. Of course, it was only her second start after a near 6-month layoff. I'm not one for the bounce effect, shall we say, but probably wasn't as eye-catching as her opening round victory. But again, she just did everything right. 28, 29. I get the feeling there's probably another 2 or 3 lengths there.
I would think so, and I thought she ran well. Well, she did run well. I know you're not suggesting that perhaps the wow factor wasn't there, but she did everything asked her. But she's done the time. She's come away well, and I thought it was a good performance personally. I wouldn't be disappointed with that whatsoever. I thought she did everything right.
At this stage, it's all about progression.
It is, and as you say, she was off for a long time. She's had a couple of runs back. She's going to improve a good bit more, and I'm sure there's plenty left in the tank at the moment. Anyway,
Barry. You're a fan. You know you've spoken to Pat about this lady. She's special, but it was just one of those sort of I need to do this. I did it.
Professional. You said that was he professional. Yeah. No, I thought it was fantastic. Like I didn't want to see her come out and do 27.90 or 27.99 on Saturday night, and then might be after peaking too early. Look, we know there's more to come. She got the job done once she slipped around the opening bends in front. It was just a matter of how far. I'm sure they'll be absolutely thrilled with that. And looking forward to Saturday night where it'll be a tougher test, and she's certainly on the right track to make it back to back Oaks titles. And what a story that would be if she can defend her crown.
Yeah, Right So Bell was back in second spot. She's a lady that has been in a few bitch finals over the years. She's just a consistent performer. I suppose the fact that she's a wide seed, she generally avoids traffic marks. She goes about it in the nice way. You know, she's no superstar, but at the same time, she's a very, very capable performer.
She is indeed, and she's running ever so well at the moment. And as you say, being on the outside, I think she's still got a part to play in the Oaks. Really, she's very determined, and again, using that word professional, I think that applies to her as well. She's a good professional performer, and as I say, I think she's still got a part to play in the Oaks. I think she's there and thereabouts all the time, isn't she?
She is. Perhaps the biggest threat to Ballymacbeanie in the race, in the actual race itself, not on paper, was Highview Secure, because Ballymacbeanie had to work hard to secure that opening bend daylight, because Highview Secure did go up strongly up the inside. You know, it took everything in Ballymacbeanie's locker to get past her, Barry. Highview Secure, she's beaten third, she's beaten 7.5 lengths, but you know, we know she has a 28-29 to pass. Perhaps if she does start to recapture her very best form, she could go another round.
Yeah, that's the thing. And in terms of Ballymacbeanie, you'll have to see her probably break better now as the competition progresses, because we've got a couple of really good starters. We've 18 inside seeds left, 2 middle and 4 wide. So it's going to get interesting. And as you said, look, the runner-up and third ran very well. Wouldn't mind owning one of them.
Yeah, this is it. Moving on to Heat 5, it was the sort of a lineup that would be very fitting of a sort of an Oaks semi-final. You know, there was a couple there that needed luck, but there was 3 or 4 massive names there. It didn't disappoint, Mark. We saw Susie Sapphire sort of making a moderate start, but she showed great early speed to get to the front. But once Frontomani swept around the outside, the writing was on the wall. Big run from the winner. Second, and indeed Ballydoyle Rossa back in third, who perhaps got her ground taken off her a couple of occasions. But Frontomani, this lady has the pace to challenge the dogs. She probably wants a bit further.
She does, and I remember talking to Owen McKenna after Susie Sapphire beat Frontomani in the Puppy Oaks, and the way he was talking about it, his eyes were on Susie Sapphire, but always looking at where Frontomani was during that race. And as he said, we were fortunate she got crowded at the turn and couldn't catch us, but she's beat her a couple of times since. And there is that rivalry with Susie Sapphire. Again, Owen was saying that she was learning on the job. She'd had very little schooling coming into the Puppy Oaks, and then everything she's doing now is still learning. The problem I think with her is I think the further from the fence, she doesn't trap as well. And she didn't trap as well from 3 as she perhaps would do from 1. And again, she's drawn on the outside further in the semi-finals. I think that's a bit of a problem. She's a real talent, though. And as Owen said, she's improving. She's learning, so she can improve. But Frontomani, I'm a big fan of Frontomani. I do like her. She's got a lovely turn of pace off the second bend. She tracks cleverly. And I think she's got a part to play again. But I felt for Susie Sapphire in a way, but I think Frontomani is a very decent bitch and has got a plot to play in this, as is the second, obviously.
If we look back at the last 20 or so Oaks, Mark, you would say Susie Sapphire has the more Oaks profile.
Yeah, absolutely.
Flash starter, great early speed, whereas Frontomani, she's going to struggle to win an Oaks final because it's so competitive, but there's no question she has the pace to win an Oaks final.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not with Susie Sapphire. Is she draw dependent? I'm not sure. It might be that she's comfortable starting on the inside, and as she gets more experience, she'll get more comfortable starting towards the middle. But as you say, of the two, her profile is more fitting for the Oaks. That's for sure. Yeah.
Barry, you're going to talk about Ballydoyle Ross as well, but the front two, they're both big players in this Oaks.
Without a doubt, I thought it was one of the races of the weekend, last weekend, just in terms of the winner. Sensational performance, unbelievable pace. Her clock's coming home, I'd say, are second to none in the competition. She could end up being ideally drawn as we get down to the maybe semi-final or final. We've only got 4 wide seats left. So definitely a leading player in terms of Susie Sapphire. Cracking run in defeat. Would love to see her in trap number 1, to see her at her very best. I think she's draw dependent. And Ballydoyle Rasa, I think, has as much pace as the winner. But as you said last week, I think when you were tipping the winner, she could struggle for the clearest of runs. And I think that was the case on Saturday night. So take nothing away from all three, and most deserving of their place in next week's quarterfinals.
Yeah, we lost Crossfield Fina, who had run so well in the opening round, but she'll be back. You'll expect to see her in many of the top bitch events in the coming weeks and months. Moving on to Heat 6, Ballymacart. She was scheduled to trial a toaster during the week, Mark. Liam had, of course, finished second with Ballymac Taz in the English Derby a couple of years back. She had taken her part in the opening round of the Oaks, got knocked out, and then went to toaster. I suppose Liam had sort of penciled her in as a possible toaster contender with a view to maybe if she got knocked out of the Oaks. Even he may have trialled her, only I'd say he saw the draw for this second round heat and went, do you know what, this lady's qualifying no matter what. We've used the term already tonight, professional. That's what she is. She has great early speed. She's probably just coming back into herself at the moment. I still think there's better to come from her. But she was always in control. Tip Top Taylor ran a massive race in second spot for Paul Ryan. She's certainly coming forward. But Ballymacart, she's definitely a player in the Oaks.
Oh, absolutely, and I think I concur with the reference to Tip Top Taylor. She kept it up to her work all the way throughout. But again, I was scratching my head a wee bit with Ballymacart, because I had it in my head that Liam was running there in the Derby. So I'm scanning the Derby runners, thinking, is he running or isn't he? And I know there have been, but I'm not sure how we work now, moving dogs back and forward with the new restrictions and things. So I concluded that she wasn't going in the Derby. But yeah, she's a class bitch, isn't she? And she's running us so well. But then again, the second I thought kept her honest up front, and it was a good race for the first and second, I thought. Yeah,
the mere fact that Liam had been, in fairness, he'd always been mentioning her as an English Derby runner. I think he was going to bypass the Oaks, and I think when he realised, I don't have that much for the Oaks, I might as well run her and see how she goes in the opening round. But the fact that he was willing to run her in English Derby suggests exactly what he thinks of her.
Well, how highly, and obviously he's got such a good, strong team for the Derby. I suppose in a way this was the bitch to run in the Oaks, and I can see the rationale behind it, certainly. And again, she's in there with a smashing chance, isn't she? She was a finalist last year. And she's on her way to being in the final again this year, I think.
Barry, an awful lot about Ballymacart. We know what she's about, and we saw it again the other night.
Yeah, pretty straightforward. As you said, the 5 bitch did keep her up to her work running a Miller in second. But from that draw, it went as we thought it might. And in fairness, it was a good night for favourite backers on Saturday night. I'm sure lots of people had doubles, triples, and accumulators, and they all got the job done. And I like the way she's progressed as well. She just got back in time for the competition, and she's come forward again on Saturday night, and she's got some great form in the book last year, so definitely more to come, and she's another one that will be a leading player. The second lady, a classy sort, and she's a half sister to Run Happy, who was just touched off in the final a couple of years ago. What an exciting final that was that night.
Yeah, Tip Top Taylor. I was going to go back to her there. She's clearly very progressive. She's won a 5.75 in Shelburne Park in the past. She looks more of a 5.25, 5.50 bitch at the moment. She went up strongly. She kept going to the line. She's 28.51. That was her career best effort over 5.25 yards. She has 15 starts, but she's clearly still improving. She's not 2 until, well, she's 2 as of tomorrow. So like she's a June whelp. Just wouldn't be surprised if she continued to improve. And you never know. Sinfonia ran on very strongly for third. I think everything she does, without using the old sort of cliche in horse racing, whatever she does over hurdles is a bonus. She could be a chaser. Well, I think this one's a stayer, Mark. She looks like she'll be Corn Cuchulainn bound.
Absolutely, she's 750 form, isn't she already? And as you say, her future is probably over a lot further. But she ran well. She stayed on strongly. She was well behind, I think, at one stage, and she came through to qualify. And it was a good effort. But again, as you point out, I think the future for her is, as you say, Corn Cuchulainn and over that sort of trip over the 750, etc. Yeah, 725, 750.
Barry, it was a good run from Sinfonia. You're more than familiar with Black Malibu. To back run her is a fair run.
Yeah, I thought it was in safekeeping as they approached the final corner. As you said, my eyes were on Black Malibu, but when I looked at the result and see who had nicked third, I wasn't quite surprised because, as you said, look, she's a very talented steer as well, and she'll have some nice targets ahead. Yeah, but Black Malibu ran with credit. Looking forward to seeing her back in the Ireland in A1 in the coming weeks. We might be able to get a few quid out of her again. Which is always important.
Not now, you have to tell in the world. Moving on to Heat 7, in terms of profiles, it was probably the heat where, it was probably most open in terms of there was no real superstars in the race. It was a case of just a good quality open race. And in the end, Kitty's Roddick, another progressive type that did a good run from the front for Keith Powell and William Stacey. A lot to like about this one, Barry. She even checked a fraction, I thought, on the third bend. Of course, she's a half sister to she half sister. No, I'll tell a lie. I'm making stuff up now. Kitty's Roddick, Droopy's Roddick and a Marwood Bray. 5 wins from 17 starts for this lady. Now 6 wins from 18. She just did it well. She bounded up the home straight. She's a nice type, and she's got a good draw the next night.
Yeah, nice performance and made the most of a great opportunity, and great for Keith Powell as well. Spoke to him recently, and I see him. He was interviewed by Debbie O'Rourke and Barking Boys prior to the competition or prior to the heat the other night. And it's great to see all these people involved because it means so much to people that have a bitch involved in such a big event. And I just thought it was fantastic for the likes of Keith and his helpers within the kennel. So yeah, big well done.
Mark, she absolutely flashed from traps. If she keeps doing that, you never know what might happen. She's a nice type.
She is a nice type. It was a fairly uneventful race, really, wasn't it? Fairly straightforward. But as you say, perhaps not the big superstars, as it were. But certainly the winner ran well. She broke quickly. She was always in front, and I think it was pretty much single file behind. But it was a good run from Keith Roddick. And again, with what Barry was saying about Keith Powell. I recently became Facebook friends with his because I saw his kennel. He's got a fabulous looking kennel in Kildare, and I just became a Facebook friend basically on the look of the kennel. But yeah, and again, an up and coming trainer, I think it's fair to say, and it's good to see lads like him getting dogs at this stage of a major stake as well.
Yeah, Keith's been training for a few years, but it just seems in the last, well, when I say a few years, like it's certainly 4 or 5 years, but it just seems in the last year or so he's been getting his hands on a nicer type, shall we say? Maybe 1 or 2 good owners coming into the kennel, and by all accounts, bitch ran very well the other night. She did a 2:05 when she needed to in the second round of the Oaks. She's looking now at like she's in the very much the easiest of the 4 quarterfinals. Yeah. Who's to say he won't have an Oak semi-finalist? A bit of black type, as they say.
She's very progressive, I think, very much. And I love her style of running. She's really from the front, does it nicely, honest bitch, keeps down to her, keeps at it as well. So yeah, I think she's got a future, that's for sure.
Yeah, I used the term bounding up the home straight. She had that enthusiastic sort of a gallop, doesn't she, Barry?
Yeah, that's right. And I think it was a toss of a coin whether she was going to run in the competition. I think the owner had maybe was going to concentrate on breeding duties, but I think Keith might have twisted his arm, so it's certainly paying dividend at the moment, and I'll have to look forward to, no doubt.
Yeah, sure is. Kilpipe Blue was second spot. She's after losing her maiden tag in the opening round. Just not quite getting to the 2850s that she had on her card prior to the Oaks. It may still come. She's going to need to really be hitting the lids. And Revio Diva, a regular at Shelburne Park, and has 48 starts in its card now. She must be a joy to own. She's so often in the frame. Just doing my simple maths here. 33 times in the frame from 48 starts. Nothing wrong with that, Mark.
Not at all. You'd give money for one of those, wouldn't you? Something to give you a bit of interest every week that she runs, really. And as you say, must be a joy to own, certainly.
Yeah, just looking at her there, she's $5,000 in prize money or in prize money. Nothing wrong with that for Revio Diva, and she's in the quarterfinals of an Oaks. So we move on to the final heat of the round, and this was about Scooby Princess. We saw both the real strong side of Scooby Princess. We also saw her weakness. She flashed from traps. She did get a bit caught out into the opening bend, Mark. It is her sort of weak point, is that first sort of 80 yards into the opening corner. But once she straightened up into the back straight, she was close enough. She charged onto the third, hit the front, and went on to win in fine style. She's in imperious form at present, but we did see why she can be beaten in the likes of this competition into the bend.
That's her Achilles heel, isn't it? She's a snappy starter, but she just doesn't have the pace to drive into the turn, and that can catch. There's an awful lot of, not saying a lot of dogs, but there are dogs like that, and they're so frustrating because if they were able to break and go to the turn as quickly as they can break, then with the stamina that she's got as well, the ability to see out the trip, I mean, they'd be tremendous dogs. Not that she's not, and she's running ever so well at the moment. I think was that her six win, I think, 6 straight wins. She's won the Olympic Oaks, and she's really powerful, very strong off the turn. And I thought she ran well, but I sort of agree with you in a way that sort of maybe 80 to 100 yards where she just doesn't have that kick, it will sometimes find her out a wee bit, and that's the problem with her, if there is a problem. But I mean, again, another fabulous bitch to own, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Barry, it's easy to knock her, but she did show unbelievable pace to win. Like all going well without very bad luck, she's probably going to be in an Oaks final.
That's exactly it. I'd struggle to not see her in the final. She's so powerful, and her form speaks for itself. I thought she was in trouble, to be honest, when she took the bump at the opening corner. A lot of people would have been waiting on her at a short price, I'm sure, for the multiples. Asheville Doll, a greyhound that I know quite well, with some very good yawl form for the local yawl kennel here, Ger Geary and his grandson Garrod. Plenty of pictures on Facebook on Saturday. Go on, the Doll was the slogan, and the community have really bought into it. I must have got 5 text messages after racing Saturday night to see how the Doll got on. So that was fantastic to see her run so well. And the fella even rang me. That was at Shelburne Park. He had a runner, and he said that young fella, the Garys, he said he's after breaking the record. He said he's after running from the stand over to the kennel area in record time. So look, and even that man said to me, that's what greyhound racing is all about. Garrod must be about 12 years of age, and what a story. They had a winner in yawl. Her sister won in 29-10 last week. They're going to be in yawl this week, and they're going to be about 9 foot tall. So that's what our sport is all about. So look, I was delighted that she ran such a fine race in second, but I take nothing away from Scooby Princess Jennifer O'Donnell's greyhound. She has that X factor, and she'll be in the final, I think.
Yeah, she just has a massive engine. Those are the stories that the Oaks in particular, Mark, is about. The Oaks is a special place in the hearts of the Irish, especially because we are a nation of breeders, a nation of people that rear their dogs. And the Oaks every year gives you those types of stories. So, people that have bred these bitches, and, it just means an awful lot more to them.
It does, and it's no coincidence that the Sporting Press sponsor the Oaks, i.e., sort of the Irish Coursing Club, because of the importance of the furthering the sort of female lines, and as you say, families involved, keeping bitches that eventually will be used for breeding, and then seeing their progeny run in the Oaks. So there is a sort of family tying, and again, the young aspect of this is, I think, needs to be not only the Oaks but in racing. I was listening to Barry's podcast with Stephen Reedy, I think, at the weekend there, and I think Barry emphasised that, or even Stephen did, there are a lot of young people still in this game. We talk about it being an old man's game, and okay, there are quite a lot of old codgers about, like myself, but there is an awful lot of young people in greyhound racing, and that does seem to be forgotten. And I thought that Stephen really put that across in that podcast as well. But getting back, youngsters, bitches in Oakses with the family involvement, the youngsters involved, very, very important for the future of the sport, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I couldn't agree with you anymore. Between Barry and Rory, especially doing Rory's podcast is of course focused on the young people. You get to hear their stories, and like these are involved in the dogs since they were children. You know what I mean? Like since they were really small, and long may it continue. I suppose as a nation, that's the way it is. You grow up down the country, and your father, or your mother, or your grandparents, or whatever have had dogs, and that's how you get involved.
Well, but like you, I was 8 when I started getting involved, and that was primarily because my father used to go to White City, and I used to go with him, and that was how I started. And I'm 60 this year, and I'm still very much involved. So I've had a whole lifetime at it, So and enjoyed every minute of it. It's a fabulous sport, and again, it deserves to continue. It really does, and I think it will.
Here. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll take a quick look at the quarterfinals. They weren't easy. There was a problem with the system. They couldn't get them up in terms of the form, but we do have the draw for the heats. Do you have the draws there, lads?
I have the draws, yeah.
Good. So the opening heat in particular is one that caught my eye. Obviously, Ballymac is well housed in the fence. Billy's Diva and Ballydoyle Ross are they're the three that really jump off the page. But as we've mentioned, Ashfield Doll for young Gerald Geary, Ravio Diva, who we've stated she rarely is out of the frame, and Galadriel, very much an improver for Declan Byrne. It's a hot contest. If Billy's Diva does things right at boxes, she'll still be very hard to beat. But Ballymac and Ballydoyle Rossa are obviously hugely fast and a big danger.
Absolutely, yeah. Billy's Diva, if she comes away the way she did at the weekend, she's got a big say. Ballymac nicely drawn on the inside. She won from one last week. I think Ballymac in terms of head-to-heads with Billy Diva is actually ahead, I think, in terms of the times they run against each other. Billy's Diva running ever so well. Ballymac, I think the Galadriel on the outside, she's running well. She's the only wide as well. She might be there or thereabouts as well. So it is, whilst it looks like there's only a few runners, it's quite competitive heat as well, I think.
Yeah, it's one of those where just a space might be at the premium in the opening corner. You never know what might happen. Barry, if you had to pick one, it's probably going to be Billy's Diva, should I say? But have you a different view on it?
No, it'd probably be Billy's Diva, but at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a bit of an upset there. When I looked at the draw on Saturday night, I thought this was a sick heat. Just so much talent in it. Obviously, Ballymac has the plum draw, and she'll be expected to take him along in the early exchanges. It'll be a matter if she can hold on there in the second half of the race, but anything could happen in that race, and I wouldn't be surprised if we lost one of the leading candidates.
Yeah, it could easily happen. Heat 2 is one for this is what I would call as a Strudy's race, Mark. It's one for the form judges. It's one for those that don't take dogs on purely their merits, but more their draw and the surroundings. Susie Sapphire's out in trap 5 here. Swanley Chick is in trap 6, and while Swanley Chick has run from the inside, there's no question she has a very good draw in this second heat.
She has a very good draw. I made a note that she's probably the best drawn in the race. Looking at the top two, both Graham's two at the top. Killpipe Blue, I watched. Does she move off slightly from one?
Yeah, she's definitely moving to 3.
She's moving off, isn't she? And
could get a bit tight now on the inside.
Yeah, there could be a wee bit of crowding there. And would Highview Secure sort of be brought into that a wee bit? Scooby Princess in 4. Susie Sapphire, how's she going to run from 5? And again, my eyes are completely drawn to Swanley Chick on the outside again, and emphasising how well she ran, I thought, last time. I think she's nicely drawn. I'm just fearful there might be a bit of crowding on the inside for those 1, 2 and 3, perhaps. It is a cracking race. And again, as you said, Ian, it's more about the draw, perhaps, than the individual merits of the runners.
Yeah, there could be 2 or 3 points of congestion here, of congestion. Let's move on. Trap Rise, first bend, and potentially the third bend. Obviously, Trap Rise you're worried about. Killpipe Blue moving out. Susie Sapphire moving in. Then on the opening corner, once they've straightened themselves out, there's 2 or 3 there that you'd expect to be sort of in a line nearly. And then into the third bend, when the likes of Scooby Princess will probably be charging, even Swanley Chick. This is a race that really could go down to the wire, Barry.
Yeah, as you said, 1 turns right. We see that last week. 5 will be diving for the inside. So it's pretty simple, isn't it? Swanley Chick at a big price.
Yeah, the only problem with that is you always say these things, and all of a sudden Scooby Princess takes an all-merciful flyer, and with 1 moving into 2 and 3, she finds herself in front in the corner. She wins 6 lengths, and we look like Egypts. Is that the way it works, Mark?
Well, it often works that way, doesn't it? So why should it change, really? You often remember times in the past when you really fancy one so well drawn, everything else, and the script's torn up at the start, isn't it? And it just doesn't work out that way. But we can't ignore what's in front of us. Really, we have to take that, and obviously sometimes it doesn't work out, other times it does.
Yeah, you have to work the percentage, but as you say, a half length here and a half length there, it's an awful long way in greyhound racing. On to the third heat. Barry says that Ballymacgorna can't win the Oaks. Well, if she is, she's going to have to be on her very, very much on her toes here, because she has Ballymacbeanie, who's very much in the same ownership, Barry, maybe one or two more involved in Ballymacgorna, but Ballymacbeanie, she'll need to be on her toes. Black Eyed Alice is a very promising young bitch with a good bit of early speed. The likes of Sinfonia will be finishing fast. Front of Manny, we know exactly what she's going to be doing. She'll be absolutely hammering home. Tip Top Taylor will probably go up well on the outside in 5. It's an intriguing contest, but if Ballymacbeanie hits the lids, she will be hard to beat.
Yeah, definitely. This is her toughest test to date. I think I just got in before you there, Mark. Mark was ready to go. But yeah, look, we'll see now what Ballymacbeanie is made of on Saturday night, because Robert Gleason's lady and Tip Top Taylor as well. This is another mouth-watering cash. And, Beanie in trap number 2, would that be okay? Would you be happy enough with that for her?
Absolutely. Did she win the Oaks from trap 2? Well, she certainly won from trap 2 in the past.
Yeah, she seems to be running a lot of her races out in 3, 4, and 5, doesn't she?
Yeah. I'd say she's the type that can go from any trap. I think the same could be said for something like Ballymacart. We've seen her run very well from the middle in the past. Ballymacbeanie, Mark, if she hits the lid, she'll certainly be in the firing line. You'd expect to see her in the semi-final of the Oaks. If she misses the kick, she just could find herself in a spot of bother here.
Well, she could if she misses the kick. Is she going to miss the kick? Probably not. I think she's drawn on the inside there. She's going to go up quickly. I think she's. I make I say a good thing, but I think she'll win. I think it's interesting, the runners on the outside. Front of Marnie and Tip Top Taylor, who is running well. Front of Marnie, the only wide seat. Tip Top Taylor on the left of her. I think Front of Marnie go. I think she'll stay on to make a place in the final. Tip Top Taylor. Sinfonia is going to be running on. Ballymacgorna, she can trap well. She stays in the middle. It's a good heat, but I think Ballymacbeanie, and I like the bottom, and I think the 5 will run well as well.
Yeah, and first instinct, it is Ballymacbeanie, Front of Manny, and another. That's the way we're looking.
I would think so. Yeah, that's why I view it. Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't disagree with that at all, Ian. That looks the most likely result for sure.
We've already touched on it. The last of the heats is one where claims could be made for probably each and every one of them. There's no superstars, but, the likes of Kitty's Roddick is coming in to the contest in the back of a good success. If she traps like she did the other night, she'll certainly be a big player. Battle Cry, we've noticed her moving to the middle in her last 2 starts. She'll probably do the same again. It'll be up to the likes of Razzle Dazzlemai and Kitty's Roddick to try and trap out in front of her. Highview Magnet is sure to give her racing again. She's certain to go up fast. She never seems to miss the kick. Highview Lemon out in 5, and Right So Bell, as we said earlier on, a real professional and well housed in the stripes. It's one of those heats, Mark, where you could run it a few times, you get a few different results. There'll be no surprising results, shall we say, but at the same time we want it to be relatively clean. Perhaps something like Kitty's Roddick or Highview Magnet, Right So Bell, one of them maybe slipping around in front and staying there.
Absolutely. Again, it's like the race that Kitty's Roddick won last time, in as much as it is a good race, but it's not necessarily a race that we're going to see the Oaks winner come from. Kitty's Roddick from the middle can go up well. Highview Magnet the same. I like the look of Right So Bell on the outside. She's ran well behind Ballymacbeanie. Battle Cry, she said, I've noticed him her drifting off. Razzle Dazzlemai, she broke quickly on Saturday, didn't she? But couldn't really go to the turn with them as such. I like the bottom. I think the bottom could be nicely drawn here. I think she might get a run around the outside.
Yeah, she's probably the most proven in this type of company, Barry.
Yeah, I thought her run last time would suggest to us that she'll take plenty of stopping in this, and she can make the most of what looks a good opportunity. And Keith Bowles' lady will run well as well in this. But Right So Bell for me, and in fairness, she's got some really good form at top level over the course of the last year or so.
Yeah, Right So Bell. Well, who am I to oppose you? Anyway, we'll stick with Right So Bell on the outside. Mark, just before we go and take a look at the Produce Stakes and perhaps a glance over the English Derby, the sporting press has gone online. I think it was a great move. I don't know what the reaction has been thus far, but I can only imagine it's been positive.
I think so. I must be honest. I haven't really got too much feedback from Anne-Marie, but I believe Anne was planning this for a good while. They wanted to do it. You're always a bit behind with modern technology. You're always a little bit behind everybody. And if you're relying on, for instance, post and deliveries, etc., it's there for people to see instantly on a Tuesday evening, on the Wednesday morning, isn't it? Wednesday morning. Excuse my ignorance there. But yeah, it's there for everybody. It's a natural progression, and I think it's a very wise move, and I'm sure it'll prove popular. Yeah.
Of course, you've been kept busy, and this will be one of your busier types of the year in terms of, Sporting Press Irish Oaks obviously ongoing, and given your ties to Clonmel and the area, with the produce stakes going on, a lot expected from the sport.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And as you say, it's a busy time in Clonmel with the produce, and it's a cracking produce as well. Very much so, a busy time for the paper, and obviously looking forward to the Oaks as well. So everyone's geared up for what is, as you say, a particularly testing time for everybody, I suppose.
Busy time for yourself as well, outside of the writing. You're still involvement in the sales, and are you involved in the jackets still?
I do a lot of things. Fingers, yeah. Well, it has been said. Yeah, I do the sales. Got a sale at Perry Bar next Tuesday week. Good sale. We've got some nice young, a lot of young dogs, all the 20s as well. March 20s. We've got January, February, March 20s. I work for Ladbrokes as well. I do a bit for Ladbrokes, voicing over for the bedding shops, and I also write for the Sun and the Sporting Press, and we do the compression suits, the Australian style.
Hiders.
Yeah. We do those, and they're very popular, particularly in Ireland. Very popular in Ireland, especially for.
Is there a type of dog that they suit in particular? Is it for a nervous type dog, or I know they work with all dogs, but they're particularly good for a dog with a nervous disposition?
They are I think the idea originally was for travelling, because obviously the compression stimulates blood flow, and dogs, when they're standing still or sitting still for a longer period of time, they can tend to cramp up. But also, for nervous dogs, they have that sort of swaddling effect. When a baby is anxious, and they wrap a swaddling wrap around, and that's the effect they have on the dogs as well. They work very well. They don't work with every dog. I would be wrong to say they do, but they work very well, and they're very popular for travelling, for recovery afterwards. That's one of the areas. If you can leave them on for about 72 hours after a race, they stimulate blood flow, and they delay an onset of a general sort of muscle soreness and things like that. A lot of the coursing boys use them as well between courses, etc. Yeah, they're very popular, and we also do the Lycra racing vest as well, which is used at Romford, Nottingham, Towcester.
I'm a massive fan. I just can't see how it's not across the board.
The problem we have with them is they are quite expensive, Ian, I'll be honest with you. But then Lycra is, when you do them and that type of thing, we manufacture them in the UK. I've spoken with the board, and I think the board are going to have another look at them. They had one look at them, and they're having another look at them. They're permitted in England, obviously, as you can see. And what they do, they're better to the eye, without a doubt.
Much better to the eye, yeah.
And also, you don't have the issues of them becoming loose or anything like that. I think they're safer. It's only a personal opinion. So there's been a slow take up of those, but we do those as well. So yeah, everything. We're moving to Ireland as well. I'm moving to Ireland end of this month, I think, early July.
Whereabouts are you moving to, Mark?
To Wexford, to
God's country, God's country.
A place called Murrintown. Do you know Murrintown at all?
I don't, I'm afraid. I'm a dub wrapped in sort of Wexford exterior.
So, yeah, we're moving over. We're moving over at the end of June, early July. Yeah, as a family, the whole lot.
So an exciting time. Speaking of swaddling, Barry often swaddles himself now. He's over on a Saturday or Sunday morning. We'll move on, because the Larry O'Rourke National Produce Stakes, we saw a Derby winner emerging from it last year. He was doing some fast times, but nothing compared to, a couple of the runs we've seen thus far in this year's competition. We'll start in the opening heat. It was a strange affair, to say the least. Explosive Boy went from being a 25-1 chance to win the race to emerging into the second bend as a 100-1 on chance. He eventually came home well and truly clear of Vallegro and Courtmac Chief, but it all very messy up front. Nitro Hero running off that second bend and, causing all sorts of carnage. But, Explosive Boy, after failing to win the Kirby, it's great to see him in the final of a Produce Stakes, and there again with a massive chance.
Yes, yeah. Oh, sorry, Barry, you go ahead. Go on.
Sorry.
No, go on, Mark. Go for it.
Shall I go? Yeah. No, Explosive Boy. It was a messy race, wasn't it? But once he saw daylight, he really went for it, didn't he? It was a good performance with the others behind, of course. But yeah, he was crowded at the first turn. Is he's not trapping as well? Is he? I mean, I remember watching it. Was it the first round of the Kirby when he bombed out and did the quick run? And I don't know if he's trapping as well, but he certainly off the second turn he really opened up nicely. And yeah, it was a good performance certainly from Explosive Boy.
I suppose the hope is for the likes of Pat Guilfoyle and Peter Sutcliffe, who is putting a lot of money into the game, is that he's probably saving his best start for the final. If he does produce it, he's going to be very hard to beat from the draw, Barry. Court Mac Chief is, though, he's a bit of a revelation in terms of the early speed he's showing in the competition. Vallegro, it's great to see him getting to the final of the Produce Stakes, having been so out of luck in the Kirby, missing his assignment in the semi-finals following car trouble.
Yeah, definitely. Look, great to see him in the final. Vallegro could play a leading part. Court Mac Chief looks a dog that could be maybe ideally suited to the likes of Romford or something like that in the UK scene. He's got phenomenal early speed. And just in terms of Explosive Boy, as Mark pointed out, when it did open up for him, he made the most of it and went on to win in convincing style. And the trap draw I think has been kind to him, but it really opens up the final next week, because I think Deadly Destroyer, if he could produce his best start as well, he could play a leading part in it. I'm sure we're going to talk about the second semi-final now anyway.
Yeah, I think we'll move on to the second semi-final, because that's where the real talk is. Good Cody, Mark, prior to this competition, I thought to myself, he's a really nice dog. I wonder where his level will be. He has taken pretty giant steps forward in the last 3 or 4 weeks. It's worth pointing out he's only an October 19 whelp. John Kennedy's had some very fast greyhounds in the past, including a Derby winner. This fellow is potentially as fast as any he's ever had. His last 2 runs in particular was sensational. Saturday night he did just the most unbelievable early sectional. His third bend split was just unbelievable, and he's getting to that line. Where is the ceiling with this fellow? Where does the improvement stop? We're now talking about not just a very promising young dog, but an established star already at this stage in his career.
He is, isn't he? He's unbeaten. I think he's the only unbeaten finalist, isn't he? And I don't know is the answer. Where does it end? I mean, John has produced some very, very good dogs over the years. And this fella's right up there with them. I mean, Good News obviously being the one that we all talk about, but there's been an awful lot of others as well. And Good Cody, you couldn't fault him. It was a tremendous performance. It's been a good field as well. Deadly Destroyer's a very decent dog, as we saw in the first round. He was the quickest first round winner, wasn't he? Carol Ramsbottom seems to have him running really well. And I don't know where it ends with him, but he's got a difficult draw in the well. I don't know if it is as difficult perhaps as it looks on paper, but dealing with the semi-final, you couldn't fault him. He was tremendous, and he goes into the final having improved, I think, in every round as well in terms of the clock and what have you.
Yeah, it's the sort of the Explosive Boy effect we're going to talk about. We saw his draw in the Kirby final where Sing Long Sally was on his outside, and unless he took a flyer, he was going to get trouble. It's probably something similar with Good Cody, but we know he can take a flyer. His progression rate, the way he's improved, and just, it's worth pointing out, he won his debut, but he was beaten in his next 5 starts. Then he enters into the Produce Stakes, and now bang, 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 taking a giant step forward, 28.52 to 28.20, 28.20 to 28.09. I'm not going to say he's not doing a 27.90 next week, because who's to know, but he reminds me a bit of Pastana, the way he sort of came to the fore last year, where he was a good dog, but then became
a great dog.
Stratospheric, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And maintained it as well. Not one fluky run. He maintained it. This lad's doing something similar. Didn't he win from the outside? He has won from the outside as well, hasn't he? I think he has.
His furthest, his only win is from that wasn't trap 1, was from trap 4. His other 3 wins have all been from trap 1, although he did finish second from trap 6 in a prep run at Clonmel on April 23rd behind Strides Billabong, but he's only posting 29.01 that night, so even since then his form has improved no end. 269 the other night. I don't care what dog is on his outside. If he does a 269, he's probably going round in front. In fact, he is going round in front.
Absolutely. No, he's just in tremendous form. Absolutely. It'd be interesting to see how it works out. Deadly Destroy, I think Barry mentioned, he's not out of it, is he? He's a classy animal. It was a 28-20 run in the first round, wasn't it? And he's with a good man as well, knows his way around a stake. And I don't think it's over. I think the draw opens it up a bit. I think Explosive Boy is the best drawn dog in the race, and that's why he's favourite, I suppose. But it's not over yet, and I think it's a slight handicap for Good Cody on the outside, but not maybe as big a handicap as people might think.
Yeah, Barry, you spoke to Carl Ramsbottom, obviously, on your podcast. One of his great aims is to win a classic, and here he is with Deadly Destroyer. He's looking more and more a 550-yard dog for me. He's good early speed, but he just keeps going. He really winds it down. If you actually look at his split in the first round compared to some of the other dogs, he does 28-25, where dogs that did almost identical third bend sectionals are doing 28-60s, 28-70s. So he's really getting to that winning line. I think we'll see a real Derby challenger when he gets to Shelbourne Park over 550 yards.
Without a doubt, and as you pointed out there, he's going to be a big player in the final on Saturday night, because if he can produce a very good start, and he's going to be in the mix. He's only beaten about 2.5 lengths on Saturday night, and when you consider the sectionals that Good Cody done 269 and 1570, like when are we going to see them again? That's incredible. Like, I must have watched it back 6 or 7 times on Sunday morning. What a dog. The big question was on Saturday night, was Good Cody going to back up that 28-20 performance from last week? And he goes out and does what he done. Just insane stuff, really.
Yeah, a remarkable final to look forward to. A couple of remarkable dogs in there, Explosive Boy and Good Cody, and as we've said, the likes of Deadly Destroyer and Viper's Buzz. Didn't beg your pardon, I don't have the draw in front of me. Allegro, should I say? Yeah. Allegro, Deadly Destroyer, they're sort of the 550-yard dogs. They're the dogs that you should be looking forward to seeing later in the year, as well of course, of Explosive Boy and Good Cody, because I think both of them will end up rolling home over 550 yards around Shelbourne Park. It's all pointing towards an exciting second half of the year. That's Saturday aside, which promises to be a tremendous final. Lads, we're going to move on because English Derby does start on Thursday. Mark, just a very overall point. Lots to look forward to, but very much a strong Irish hand. We're sending over a pretty potent team.
Very much so, and numerically and in terms of quality as well, as good a team as I can recall seeing. I don't think it's too far shy of the very best in terms of numbers that we've ever seen from Ireland. I think that was in 2015, around 44 or something, when Rio Quattro, of course, won that $250,000 first prize. Very strong. All the top trainers represented more or less, and again dominant at the top end of the betting as well. I think Ireland have a tremendous chance of winning it. And again, 1, 2, 3 last 2 years. Who's to say that won't happen again?
Yeah, it's sort of hard to see how they won't have a strong hand in the latter stages of it.
Yeah,
of course, there are one or two. It only takes one dog to upset the apple tart. That's the apple cart, should I say, not the apple tart.
You're winding everybody up over here with you.
I know, yeah, but listen, you have to play that role. It's like being in the pantomime. You know what I mean?
They're getting genuinely quite angry, I think.
And I know the more they do that, the more I'll get at it. No, as I said, I'm sick. I'm actually sick of opinion now at this stage. I'm sick of winding people up. I just want to speak about facts. It's only going to take one from the UK. There are a few prospects over there.
There are. Do you know a dog? I know it won't happen. If you could get the draw every time, 10-pin would really take everyone. I mean, he could get one every night. I'd say he'd go close to winning it. He's a super dog from the inside. He is in my opinion, he's very draw dependent. But again, he's drawn one in the first round. If he could continue getting one, or maybe getting two with a sort of sleeper on his left-hand side, I think he's a cracking dog. I'm very impressed with Pat Jansen's dog, the Thorn Falcon dog. He won the Cab Maiden, took a knock early on, still did 29.30. That was a good run. I like him. And another dog who I don't think had a tremendous Irish card when he came over to England, but he's impressed me is Kulavani Kaiser. Impressed me because he's one of those jealous dogs. He doesn't like to lose races. And I saw him at Monmore there the other night, and he was really tested. And again, he just dragged it out of the fire right at the end. And he's that type of dog, He's one of those.
He's grown up somewhat, Mark. When
he has.
He was absolutely draw dependent. He's so badly wanted to fence. He used to dive in. He was all paced down the back straight, and he was running into traffic problems. You could see the engine was there. And since he's got the trapping right, and he's really going to the corner, as you say, doesn't like to be passed.
Doesn't like to be beaten at all. And they're the best type of dogs, jealous dogs who want to win every time. And he really has.
I'm going to ask you for a couple against the field.
From Ireland, I like Native Maestro when he won. He ran well. I liked him. I thought he ran really well. I was very impressed with Beach Avenue. I thought he ran the track well. He's so strong. And I remember talking to Paul Hennessy about him. He won a sort of confined stake, I think. And then Paul said he was going to run him. He ran him in the Guinness 600. No, he ran him in the East. Did he run him in the Easter Cup? I think he did.
Yeah, he was second in the Easter
And
Cup.
then he ran him in the Guinness 600, or the 600 as it's called now, and was beaten unlucky in the final of that. I was very impressed with him when he won. So I'd go with, who I was talking about? Oh, sorry. Native Maestro. And from Ireland, Native Maestro, great name. That is a dog Liam seems to have a lot of time for as well. Knocknable Sid is an obvious one. He's running ever so well. And I know Pat, he thinks he's a better dog this year than last. And I think it's no coincidence that since he won the Easter Cup, he's done very little with him. I think he really fancies his chances. Of the English, Farm Falcon, Colabani Tizer and 10 Pin. Of the Irish, Native Maestro, Knockball Sid, and great name that.
There you are, 6 of them there. 10 Pin certainly has the draw in the opening round. He's drawn in 1 with Amazing Twink in 2, who's the slowest starter in Europe. So he looks guaranteed a big finisher.
Amazing Twink has done really well. Sorry, brilliant for break. No, Amazing Twink I think he's still a maiden, but he's done ever so well for for Richard Rees, and he's impressed me. He's the sort of dog, you bet each way. Maybe you could see him in the final.
Massive pace from the second bend. Barry would be more than aware of him. Barry, looking at the Derby, you're pretty confident of an Irish win, I'm sure. We won't rub it in anymore, but give me a couple that you're fancying.
I think, look, Pat Buckley has a very strong team. They're the two I've backed so far. They're Jet Sydney, last year's winner, and knocking the bull state. I think you need a flying starter on the for a toaster. You can forget about strong runners in my book. You have to be in a very prominent position around that opening corner. Very hard to pass dogs. Knocking the bull state, I think, is the perfect candidate. Not quite sure what price he is now. I think I got around 16 to 1, but he'd possibly go off as favourite. And there, Jet Sydney, if he could find his trapping boots, I think he had a few tardy starts in recent outings, but if he can get his starting right, I think he's a stronger greyhound than he was last year. And I wouldn't be surprised if he was in the mix at the latter end of the competition. But for me, it's the Pat Buckley duo of Knock the Bull Sid and Dare Jet Sydney, and a very confident Irish selection. And 1, 2, 3 anyways, definitely. I know a couple of the Twitter judges are on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but I'd settle for 1, 2, 3 anyway in the final this year. And I'm sure that would please you as well.
I surely would. I was just funny enough looking through the draw. I think I think the Irish will probably get in around the 30 mark through to the second round mark, 30 out of 96. But then obviously draw dependent, just given the strength of the Irish dogs, just wouldn't be surprised to me if sort of, come the last 48 or last 24, that it was nearly an equal enough footing in terms of the numbers.
Yeah, I wouldn't surprise me either. No, that again, we've mentioned the numbers, but it's the quality as well. I mean, Liam bringing a real good team, Pat bringing a real good team, Paul Hennessy has some cracking runners, and of course Graham as well. No, I think it's probably very likely that towards the end of the stake it could be 50-50 in terms of English and Irish runners. It was, I think, in years gone by, wasn't it? We've been, at Nottingham there, we had a couple of situations where we were almost level numbers at the latter stages, and I think that would probably be the case again this year. I think Ireland, Star Sports, they're 4-7 to win the stake, aren't they? I think something.
No, they were 4-7. They're now 2-7.
They're 2-7. Oh God.
Yeah, they were absolutely filled in at 4-7, I believe.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So well, there you go. That's fairly reflective, I think, of the chances. There are some decent dogs over here, but in terms of quality, I think that the Irish have the quality. Very much.
Yeah,
so.
The opening round will serve as shadow boxing. You'll be getting rid of the 80 or 90 names that really have little enough chance, and a few big names I'm sure will go out, but by all accounts it'll start to really heat up the following week. But we look forward to it. Before then, we'll be looking forward to the quarterfinals of the Sporting Press Online Edition Irish Oaks, the final of the Produce Stakes, of course, on Saturday night, and of course that English Derby. Best luck to all involved, not just the Irish. It should be a great few weeks of action. But that's it for us on a Talking Dogs on Monday. My thanks to Mark, a great guest this morning, to Barry, as always, full of the joys. Looks like
Just before we go in,
oh, here we go. Go on.
before we go, here we go. Mark gave mention there to the Perry Bear sales. Don't forget the Yall sales next Saturday. Next Saturday week, June the 12th. Catalog will be up early in the week, and we'll have a little preview as well. So one for Derry there, 12th of June.
Never fails. In the UK, they'd call it the Ugle sales. Anyway, that's it for us. Best of luck. We'll talk to you next time.
Thanks.